Get ready, because from my point of view, the dialogue is evil. Today we're going to break down 6 new types of bad dialogue with plenty of examples. By the way, I just released a new book that explores the craft of writing. It's called Story Made Simple, and it covers the 8 key elements of storytelling. Check the link in the description below so you can order your copy today. But enough about that, because right now, bad versus good dialogue is back. Today we're going to start with a quick refresher on what good dialogue does, then we'll analyze 6 types of bad dialogue. For each type, I'll give you a bad example from a story, and I'll explain why it sucks. Then I'll give you a good example and explain why that one works. Let's start by looking at what good dialogue does. We'll say it does 3 specific things. The first one is that it sounds natural and appropriate. This applies to the character speaking it, the setting in which it is spoken, the story's tone, and the current situation. Remember that different stories will require a specific type of dialogue. For example, what Buzz Lightyear says in his movies wouldn't work if it were spoken by Tony Soprano. And likewise, what Tony Soprano says wouldn't work if it were spoken by Buzz Lightyear. Character, setting, tone, and situation determine which dialogue works best. Second thing good dialogue does, it attacks and defends. Remember, dialogue is action. Every time a character speaks, they should be trying to learn something, hide information, intimidate someone, protect someone, push their own values, reject someone else's values, etc. Here's a scene from Good Will Hunting that illustrates what I mean. In this therapy session, Sean, who's played by Robin Williams, is trying to help Will overcome his fear of abandonment. Pay attention to how Sean attacks and Will defends.
I went on a date last week.
How'd it go?
It was good.
Going out again?
I don't know.
Why not?
Haven't called her.
Call her up, Romeo.
Why? So I can realize she's not that smart, that she's fucking boring? You know, I mean, you don't... This girl's like fucking perfect right now. I don't want to ruin that.
Maybe you're perfect right now. Maybe you don't want to ruin that. But I think that's a super philosophy, Will. That way you can go through your entire life without ever having to really know anybody.
Later, after Sean shares a story about his deceased wife, Will goes on the attack, forcing Sean to defend himself.
You ever think about getting remarried?
My wife's dead.
Hence the word remarried.
She's dead.
Well, I think that's a super philosophy, Sean. I mean, that way you could actually go through the rest of your life without ever really knowing anybody.
This scene does a phenomenal job showing its characters attacking, defending, and counterattacking. It all helps deepen their relationship while pushing their character arcs forward. Finally, the third thing good dialogue does is it expresses unspoken meaning or subtext. When characters speak, there should be meaning and tension beneath the surface of their words. This is because whenever there's conflict, most people are hesitant to say exactly what's on their mind. That tension beneath the surface invites the audience to engage with the conversation on a deeper level. Here's a clip from The Sopranos to help you better understand subtext. The scene comes from one of the show's most iconic episodes, in which Tony takes his daughter Meadow on a road trip to visit colleges. Along the way, Tony spots a former mobster who disappeared a decade ago after betraying the mob. Tony considers having the guy whacked, but throughout the episode he has to call his nephew Christopher to confirm the guy's identity. I'm going to play one of their conversations now. Pay attention to what they say, as well as the meaning beneath the surface.
Yo!
What do you got?
Wet shoes.
You chose this life. You don't want to work in a rain, try for the fucking Yankees.
The car is registered to Frederick Peters.
Good match, huh?
I guess. I don't know. T, what are you gonna do?
I don't know. Got Meadow here.
First off, I love the interaction between Tony and Christopher at the start. Chris complains about wet shoes, but what he's really complaining about is not having a bigger role within the mob. He hates running around doing errands like this. Tony then fires back with his Yankees comment, which is a colorful way of reminding Chris that he has to follow orders if he wants to become a made man. Later on, Chris asks Tony what he's going to do about the former mobster, and Tony replies by pointing out that his daughter's right here. What he's really saying is that he's in a tough spot. He's torn between his family man self and his mafia self. This subtext highlights the double life he's leading while creating a strong dilemma that will force him to make a choice by the end of the episode. Alright, now it's time for some bad dialogue. For each type, I'll explain what it is, then I'll give you a bad example from a story and explain why it sucks, and then I'll give you a good example and explain why that one works. The first type of bad dialogue is product placement dialogue. This is phony sounding dialogue that exists to push specific products, companies, ideas, etc. It makes characters sound like sellouts, it cheapens the narrative, it rips us out of the story, and typically this type of dialogue lacks subtext. For a bad example, let's look at Jurassic World. If you saw my worst Jurassic Park scenes video, you know I love to beat up on the sequel trilogy, so let's do it again. Now, early in this movie, we see Claire meeting with business people who want to sponsor the newest breed of dinosaur. Afterwards, she joins her coworkers in the control room, and they drop 4 different product placements in the span of a minute.
Where did you get that?
Oh, this? I got it on eBay. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Verizon Wireless presents the Indominus Rex.
Oh, that is so terrible. Why not just go the distance, Claire, and just let these corporations name the dinosaurs?
Pepsi-Saurs, Tostito-Dome.
This sucks because all these product placements take us right out of the story. It's one thing to casually say, oh, I got this on eBay, but when you unload eBay, Verizon Wireless, Pepsi, and Tostitos in the span of a minute, it becomes a distraction. Now, to be fair, they try to lampshade the advertisements. When we talk about lampshading in storytelling, we're talking about drawing attention to something that sucks, usually by using humor or having characters acknowledge the problem. This takes the sting out of it, but dumping 4 different ads in a short time span makes the scene feel like a commercial break, and the characters feel like they're working for Pepsi rather than Jurassic World. For a good example, let's look at Jurassic World Rebirth. I can't believe I'm about to say something nice about Rebirth, but here we are. I'm just gonna have to take a shower after this. Anyway, if you've seen the movie, you know it's loaded with product placements. The story even kicks off with a Snickers wrapper compromising a research lab, and that's the first of several advertisements that create distractions. But there is one good dialogue exchange that actually works despite naming a billion-dollar brand. The moment happens toward the end when Black Widow and her team are looking for the family who somehow survived the T-Rex attack. Black Widow wants to regroup with them, while the evil pharmaceutical guy wants to ditch them. The 2 leaders end up having this exchange.
Hey, there's footprints here! Hello? Ruben! Teresa!
Zora, they could be anything. They could be animals. It could be...
In Nikes?
Listen, I appreciate what you're doing.
This works because it sounds like natural human speech. It sounds like something you and I might say if we went hiking and got separated from our friends. The Nike comment is specific enough to add punch to the dialogue without feeling like an advertisement. And the humor works well here because it's short and snappy. It goes back to the idea of attacking and defending, and humor can often be a great counterattack. Also, there's subtext here. What the evil pharmaceutical guy is really saying is that he cares more about his own safety than anyone else's. Meanwhile, what Black Widow is really saying is that he's a selfish coward, and she puts him in his place by mocking him. Second type of bad dialogue is mind-reading dialogue. This is when characters magically discuss information they never actually learned. Essentially, they read another character's mind because the plot is in a hurry. It's often the result of sloppy editing, and it's a wasted opportunity to have characters engage in verbal conflict where they can attack and defend in order to learn the info. For a bad example, let's look at Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. I recently rewatched all the Superman movies, and the 4th one is a hilarious mess that manages to be fun despite its many flaws. The villain is this goof named Nuclear Man, and he's the Ivan Drago of supervillains. He's big, he's strong, he's one-dimensional, and he even talks like Drago.
I must break you.
Destroy Superman.
Toward the end of the movie, the script randomly decides to have Nuclear Man develop feelings for the Daily Planet's new publisher, Lacey Warfield. Seconds later, he flies to the Daily Planet where Superman is waiting for him. They then have this exchange.
Where is the woman?
Give it up, you'll never find her.
If you will not tell me, I will hurt people.
This sucks because Nuclear Man mentions the woman, which can be any woman within the building, yet Superman somehow knows exactly who he's talking about. This conversation is so absurd it's hilarious, and what's even wilder is the fact that they could have easily fixed this by either having Nuclear Man mention Lacey by name, or better yet, by having the 2 men attack and defend until they determine which woman is the target. Also, this dialogue exchange is a crime against subtext. On one hand, they miraculously discuss a specific woman without identifying her, and at the same time, Nuclear Man plainly states what he's going to do if he can't have her. It's something that can break your brain if you're not careful, so let's just move on to our good example. This one comes from Season 5 of Game of Thrones. Normally, I never say nice things about the later seasons of the show, but I guess today I'm undergoing a character arc or something. Now, in Season 5, Episode 4, the sorceress Melisandre visits Jon Snow after he becomes Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Her goal here is to recruit him for the war between life and death, but John doesn't believe in her cause.
Winterfell was your home once. Don't you want to chase the rats out of it?
Castle Black is my home now. Night's Watch take no part in the wars of the Seven Kingdoms.
There's only one war. Life against death. Let me show you what you're fighting for.
You're gonna show me some vision in the fire. Forgive me, my lady. I don't trust in visions.
After he refuses her, they have a not safe for work moment together where she tries to seduce him into joining her.
There's power in you. You resist it, and that's your mistake. Embrace it. You're not joining. There's power.
I don't think Stannis would like that very much.
Then we shouldn't tell him.
Jon resists, citing that he still loves his dead girlfriend Ygritte, who used to tease him with the line, "You know nothing, Jon Snow."
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Finally, the conversation ends with Jon refusing Melisandre once again. She then heads out, but not before delivering a chilling example of mind reading.
I loved another.
The dead don't need lovers.
I know. But I still love her.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
This works because the mind reading comes from a character who can actually read minds. Not only does this feel natural due to Melisandre's magical abilities, it also creates a high-impact moment that shocks both Jon and the audience. There's also some great attacking and defending going on within this scene. Melisandre first attempts to manipulate Jon by appealing to his desire to protect Winterfell. Then, when he shuts her down, she tempts him with power and sex. Jon defends by citing his vow to the Night's Watch, as well as his feelings for Ygritte. Finally, the subtext here is strong. Melisandre isn't simply trying to recruit him or hook up with him. She's testing his character, trying to determine if he's a worthy leader, and he shows that he's committed to his vows and values. Third type of bad dialogue is soap opera dialogue. This is dialogue that is on the nose, melodramatic, and emotionally over the top. It sounds unnatural because characters spell out their emotions and dump exposition, which contributes to a noticeable lack of subtext. These conversations also get repetitive, and they come off as unrealistic when characters openly discuss topics that should be difficult to address. For a bad example, let's look at an actual soap opera. That's right, I'm going after General Hospital. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Brandon, how dare you criticize General Hospital? You have no right to talk shit on GH. This show has been running for 60 plus years, and you need to leave Sonny, Carly, and everyone else in Port Charles alone. And look, I get it. GH is untouchable. I know I'm crossing a line here, but I have to point out this horrendous dialogue exchange between Brooke and Harrison, where they discuss their options for having a baby.
It is still really hard for me to accept the fact that I can't get you pregnant. I feel like I failed you.
The fact that you think that the extraordinary man that you are can be reduced to whether or not you could get me pregnant is crazy. And all I want to do is think about our future together.
I don't want my disappointment over us not being able to have a biological child stop us from moving forward with the child that we can have.
I still want to start a family with you no matter how we do it.
Well, the great thing is there's still a lot of options. We just have to decide which one is right for us.
Keep coming back to adoption.
I certainly think it's the best fit for us, but I didn't know how you felt about it, having given up your baby for adoption when you were a teenager.
Giving up my baby only made me respect the adoption process even more.
Okay, so this sucks, but let me say right up front that this type of dialogue is what's expected in daytime soap operas. If you're writing for General Hospital, you can get away with this shit. But if you're writing for anything else, avoid the mistakes they make here. First off, the characters dump exposition and emotion all over the place. And there's no tension because instead of the characters holding back their emotions, they plainly state them. Instead of attacking and defending, we get agreeing and info dumping. Also, the spoken words themselves are ridiculously unnatural. No human being should talk like this. Harrison sounds like an AI program when he's explaining his disappointment, and later he sounds like an advertisement when he explains their options. Finally, the last problem with this exchange is that the two characters have breezy discussions about subjects that would make any couple hesitate. Worse yet, they make their decision too quickly. Ultimately, the dialogue goes through the motions rather than bringing these two clowns to life by exploring a meaningful dilemma. For a good example, let's look at Season 4 of the TV series Suits. I was a big fan of this show during its original run. It's a fun legal drama in which 5 of the 6 main characters are amazing, and the other is played by Meghan Markle. Anyway, Harvey Specter is this hotshot corporate lawyer who loves to take risks while achieving high status. The one area where he struggles is his personal life, and although there's plenty of romantic tension between him and his witty secretary Donna, he keeps her at arm's length. In Season 4, Donna breaks the law to help with an important case, and Harvey has to bail her out. After he does, the two of them share a drink at her apartment and discuss their relationship.
I told you I'd never let anything happen to you, and I won't ever. So you don't ever have to feel scared like that again.
I thought you said you didn't do the comfort thing.
I didn't say I didn't do it. I said I didn't have time because I was so busy saving your ass. Anyone else ever loses faith in me, doesn't matter. With you, it's different. I should go.
Why?
You know why. You know I love you, Donna.
What separates this conversation from the General Hospital example is subtext. Yes, Harvey and Donna are having an emotionally charged conversation, but the emotion feels realistic because there's tension hiding beneath the surface. That line, "I won't let anything happen to you," hits hard because we know he's holding something back. Better yet, over the course of the scene, we get plenty of attacking and defending. Donna makes a push by saying, "I thought you didn't do the comfort thing." Then Harvey backs off a little bit before admitting that her opinion matters to him. Then we have a great character moment where Harvey realizes he's let his guard down and he gets up to leave before Donna calls him out. Finally, the scene ends with him telling her "I love you" in a way that is loaded with subtext and open to interpretation. He's trying to protect her feelings as well as his own, and this battle beneath the surface is what makes the scene so compelling. Fourth type of bad dialogue is style gone stupid dialogue. This happens when characters are established as having a unique or unconventional speaking style, but then the writing gets lazy and the style either vanishes entirely or it mutates into something confusing. It makes the characters look silly, it takes us right out of the story, and it can muddy the subtext. For a bad example, let's look at Yoda in Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Episode 2 is a bad dialogue masterclass, and no character can escape the wrath of George Lucas's keyboard, not even Yoda. Now, Yoda has one of the most iconic speaking styles in all of storytelling. Typically, if you're speaking English, your sentences will follow a pattern that goes subject, verb, object. So you might say something like, "I will watch Brandon's video," and that works in everyday English. Meanwhile, Yoda's speaking style follows a pattern of object, subject, verb. So he would say, "Brandon's video I will watch." And this is a unique way to have a wise 900-year-old creature speak. It gives his dialogue flavor while still being understandable. Unfortunately, however, in the prequel trilogy, sometimes Yoda goes off the rails, and never is this more apparent than during the Battle of Geonosis when he yells out his most ridiculed quote.
"Around the survivors, a perimeter create."
This sucks because you take a unique speaking style and cause it to trip all over itself. Inverting a sentence's structure is a cool gimmick, but when you overdo it, it comes off as confusing and unintentionally funny. Real quick, take a look at the sentence "around the survivors a perimeter create." If we un-Yoda this thing, the plain English version becomes "create a perimeter around the survivors." There's no subject here, so we can only invert the verb and object. In standard Yoda speech, that would become "a perimeter around the survivors create," which sounds awful. Now, the way to fix this is by acknowledging the "you understood" at the beginning of the sentence. If you're not familiar with the concept of "you understood," basically, anytime we give an order to someone, the subject is the word "you," even though it's not actually spoken. So, "finish editing your novel" is actually "you finish editing your novel," or "you must finish editing your novel." And that means the easiest way to fix Yoda's dialogue would be "a perimeter around the survivors you must create." Or, better yet, cut it down and say, "a perimeter you must create," then show the clone troopers creating that perimeter. Or just cut the line entirely and have them create the perimeter. Sometimes silence is better than words. But unfortunately, instead of respecting Yoda's style and constructing effective dialogue, the movie gives us a broken line that undermines one of its most exciting moments. For a good example, let's take a look at Game of Thrones and our favorite religious fanatic, Melisandre. Now, throughout the show, she speaks in a style that's poetic and elevated. This makes sense because she's a sorceress who has spent much of her life dealing in mysticism and reading ancient writings. On top of that, she's 400 years old, which means she's a little young for Yoda, but still much older than everyone else in Westeros. This all means that her speaking style should differ from that of the other characters, and we see this when she's introduced in Season 2.
Lord of light, come to us in our darkness. We offer you these false gods. Take them and cast your light upon us. For the night is dark and full of terrors.
All you men were named in the light of the Seven. Is this how you treat the gods of your fathers?
You smell of fear. Fear and piss and old bones. Do you want to stop me? Stop me.
This works because her speaking style is unique enough to distinguish her, while it's consistent enough to be understandable. When giving a speech, she leans into poetic language, and when confronted by the old man, she speaks more plainly, while still maintaining a distinct style that highlights her mysterious nature. Ultimately, her elevated language and cryptic phrases reveal her character, hint at her backstory, and create subtext as she seeks to control those around her. The fifth type of bad dialogue is the convenient outburst. This is explosive dialogue that manipulates the characters and/or the audience. It's often a cheap way of conveying info or sending the plot in a new direction. It feels forced, and it makes the characters look silly. For a bad example, let's look at the Thanksgiving dinner scene in Spider-Man 2002. Now, the dinner happens after Spider-Man and the Green Goblin have a violent confrontation. Peter gets a cut on his arm, and when Norman Osborn notices it, he realizes that his son's best friend is Spider-Man. This prompts Norman to abruptly leave, which causes Harry to confront his father. Harry had been eager to introduce his dad to his new girlfriend Mary Jane, and when Harry insists that Norman stay, the two men have this exchange.
This girl is important to me.
Harry, please, look at her.
You think a woman like that sniffing around because she likes your personality?
You're wrong about her, Dad.
A word to the not-so-wise about your little girlfriend. Do what you need to with her, then broom her fast.
Thanks for sticking up for me, Harry.
This sucks because the outburst feels forced within the context of the story. I get that Norman is dealing with a dual identity and that the Goblin is causing him to react in abnormal ways, but the dialogue here feels like it's cheating because it's just loud enough for everyone to hear, and it conveniently resolves the movie's love triangle. Instead of having Peter win Mary Jane away from Harry, Norman creates a scene that dooms Harry and MJ's relationship. That opens the door for Peter to become boyfriend material, and Peter doesn't have to get his hands dirty to make this happen. Ultimately, the dialogue feels like something the script wants rather than what the characters want. Norman yelling out in the hallway is just silly, and honestly, this argument would have been much stronger if Norman and Harry had it at the dinner table, where things could have gotten really uncomfortable. For a good example, let's look at Peacemaker. I just watched this show recently, and I gotta say, I was not prepared for how good this thing is. It's fun, outrageous, and hilarious, and the intro sequence might be the greatest thing my eyes and ears have ever experienced. Now, the plot centers on the DC anti-hero Peacemaker, who's trying to rid the world of these parasitic alien butterfly creatures, while also going on a journey of self-discovery. He starts off as an asshole who's obsessed with killing people in order to achieve peace, and in one of the later episodes, we get a flashback that shows us how he came to be this way. When he was a kid, his father forced him and his brother to fight each other while spectators placed bets. And one day, Peacemaker unintentionally delivered a fatal blow that earned the following outburst from his father.
He's doing the worm.
Keith! You dumb fuck! You killed your brother! You killed your brother, you piece of shit!
This works because the outburst is completely natural within the context of the story. The father neither expected nor wanted this outcome, and his explosion feels completely realistic. It also helps that it's presented during a flashback from Peacemaker's point of view. People often remember tragic memories as being highly dramatic, and the intensity works here. Another plus is that the dialogue itself is simple and straightforward. There are no tricks here, and it allows the moment to speak for itself and show us why Peacemaker came to blame himself for his brother's death. Finally, there's subtext. The father is the one who caused the brother's death, yet he blames Peacemaker, and the meaning beneath the surface makes us sympathize with our main character. Finally, the last type of bad dialogue for today is the clumsy callback. This is dialogue that echoes back to earlier dialogue in awkward fashion. Now, callbacks are often a clever dialogue technique, and we saw this earlier in the video during the Good Will Hunting example, where Will uses Sean's words against him.
But I think that's a super philosophy, Will. That way you can go through your entire life without ever having to really know anybody.
Well, I think that's a super philosophy, Sean. I mean, that way you could actually go through the rest of your life without ever really knowing anybody.
Unfortunately, however, sometimes writers get cued or try to force this technique, and it draws attention to itself. In the end, it often feels unnatural, and it hurts the subtext. For a bad example, let's beat up the prequels one more time and look at Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. The line I have a problem with is this one right here.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil!
Now, why does this suck? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But people often forget that this is a callback to an earlier dialogue exchange between Anakin and Palpatine. During the opera scene, they discuss Anakin's place within the Jedi Order, as well as the methods of the Sith and how the dark side can save people from death. It's one of the best dialogue exchanges in the prequels, and at one point, Palpatine delivers this line.
The Jedi use their power for good.
Good is a point of view, Anakin. The Sith and the Jedi are similar in almost every way.
Then, during the climactic battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan, the two men debate the merits of the Jedi Order, and Anakin somehow speaks this horrible line.
Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil! From my point of view, the Jedi are evil!
This sucks because the line, from my point of view, is a brainless thing to say. Of course it's from his point of view. He's the one speaking it. And nobody should talk like this, whether it's in real life or a galaxy far, far away. Another problem is that the callback itself is weak. As I mentioned, the Opera House conversation is one of the best in the prequels, and there are several potential lines that Anakin could refer back to. But instead of bringing up something about the power of the Sith or the shortcomings of the Jedi, he chooses to focus on point of view. Finally, there's no subtext here. He blatantly states how he feels, and this is a blown opportunity to inject some extra tension into a major confrontation. That brings us to our good example. Now, I beat up on George Lucas a lot today, so let's end things on a high note for him by looking at a fun dialogue callback from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm actually not sure if he wrote this dialogue, and to be honest, my money's on Spielberg, but hey, maybe George's fingerprints are somewhere on this one. Anyway, about midway through the movie, Indy encounters his rival Belloq, and the two have a discussion centered around archaeology. Belloq then delivers this line about an everyday watch.
Look at this. It's worthless. $10 from a vendor in the street. But I take it and bury it in the sand for 1,000 years, it becomes priceless.
Later, after Indy recovers the Ark from the Well of Souls, Belloq steals it. The two then have an exchange that involves a callback.
You're about to become a permanent addition to this archaeological find. Who knows? In 1,000 years, even you may be worth something.
Son of a bitch.
This works because the callback feels relevant and natural. Belloq's slimy joke makes us hate him even more, while Indy's reaction creates humor during a tense situation. Finally, the dialogue creates enough subtext to keep things interesting. Belloq could have just said something like, "You're gonna die down there," but instead his personality shines through and he adds more juice to the rivalry between him and Indiana Jones. So I hope this helps. Question of the day, what are some of the worst or best dialogue exchanges that you've come across in recent months? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of any one of my books and be sure to leave reviews on Amazon. I already talked about Story Made Simple, and it covers those 8 key elements of storytelling. If you're a writer, you don't want to miss out on it. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, like, share, and subscribe. Maybe support me on Patreon. And as always, remember to keep on writing.